Hey, what is going on, guys? It is me, Timmy335, with you once again. And today I've got something a little different. Normally I just talk about the game and how everything went and all that. This is not a special game. This game is not even something I would normally post, but I was kind of like, whatever. The game's not going to be accentuated, is basically what I'm saying. So it's just basically a backdrop for some entertainment, so you're not looking at a black screen while I'm talking. But basically, what I wanted to talk about today was my impression, I guess, of a movie I saw recently. So, I'd seen this movie before, but it had recently been re-released in 3D. So, you must know by now, if you or unless you're not really paying attention, unless you don't pay attention to movies. I'm talking about Titanic. It has been re-released in 3D, commemorating the 100th anniversary of all that happened during the day, the Titanic sinking, the iceberg hitting, all of that junk. So basically, they're commemorating the 100th anniversary of the sinking by redoing this movie. It's a great movie, by the way. But there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. It's, first of all, I feel like this movie, when I first watched it, I was kind of indifferent about it. I mean, it was a great movie. I'm not, like, both times I've watched it, I've seen, obviously, it's a great movie. But the first time, it didn't really have the effect on me that it had this time. I don't know what it was this time, but during the parts where people were losing their lives, I actually cried. Like, I'm not afraid to say that. I cried about this movie. I don't know why. Maybe just if you guys have seen the movie, to put it in perspective, the one part that made me cry the most was when the old couple was in the bed while the water was rising up to them, and I don't know why, that just opened the floodgates for me. And the rest of that movie, until the end of the movie, after that part, I just cried and cried and cried until the end, including the ending part where Rose and Jack were together again on the grand staircase of the Titanic. So basically what I'm saying is, I think it's alright for dudes to cry. Call me gay, I don't really care. Because even though I cried like a baby, I really did enjoy the movie, and I think it's kind of a misconception among some communities, especially here in America. I know for a fact that it's gay to cry or it's womanly to cry, and I kind of disagree with that. Like, I'm not afraid to admit that I cried during watching that movie. Like, to be honest with you, I don't cry often, but when I do cry, it's for a reason. Like, I've cried during a couple personal moments in my life. I cried during Marley and Me, but who didn't? Marley and Me was sad. But yeah, so I think it's alright for dudes to cry. So if you're one of those emotional types and you're a dude, don't hold back on it, I guess. It's your personality, and that's just who you are. I mean, I'm not one that normally cries like that. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm not. I'm just like, whatever. This movie's not that sad. But on this occasion, I was definitely feeling like that. But anyhow, I was going to go ahead and talk about also basically my thoughts about the movie and kind of the impact it had upon basically my thoughts about it, because it's kind of saddening. There's a ton of things that could have happened that would have prevented all of that junk that happened from happening. The 1,500 lives that were lost in the Titanic sinking, they all could have been prevented. First of all, the lifeboats, there weren't enough there's about enough to accommodate approximately half of the people on the Titanic, which is ridiculous, because I know that they advertised it to be unsinkable, but I know for a fact that somebody knew that the damn thing wasn't unsinkable. I mean, they wouldn't have lifeboats at all if it was legitimately absolutely unsinkable. So you have to have lifeboats for everybody. That's kind of stupid. I mean, that's basically saying, oh, if we get in a crash, we don't care that half of our people are going to die. All that matters is that we get our money, which is absolutely asinine. So I'm glad that they fixed that after the movie, but it's just, not after the movie, but after the actual crash, because it's just so sad that it came to that. It really is. Another thing, I kind of think it's dumb that they advertised the thing to be unsinkable, knowing it wasn't, like I said. And it kind of hits home because there's a lot of rich people on that boat that ended up dying, and a lot of them vouched for towards the captain for them to move the thing faster to get to where they were going quicker because they wanted to set records and make headlines. And I doubt any of that would have happened if they would have not said that the thing was unsinkable. Because think about it, if you know a thing like a boat can sink, and you're just sitting here trying to go faster, do you think they would really have vouched for them to go that faster as much as they did if they would have known that the thing could sink if it hit an iceberg? I doubt it. So I'm just kind of reflecting here because I'm doing a project on the Titanic in my English class. It's part of our. It's like a project we're doing also to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the tragedy. But in the project, we have to basically choose one thing that we think was the main contributor to the sinking, the actual sinking of the Titanic. Nothing else, just the actual sinking. Other than the iceberg, because that's Captain Obvious mode. Obviously, the iceberg caused the sinking, but other than that, the building, the structures, the owners, the way they did things, the captain, the passengers, for some any kind of thing you thought you actually legitimately think it is, you have to write an essay on it and prove it. So I've been thinking, and I just can't think of one thing that accentuates why the Titanic sank. There's tons of things. There's the ship, even though it was the best of its time, was definitely not built. It would not be up to par with today's standards for safety-wise, and the materials it was built with. Even though it has nothing to do with the reason why the Titanic sank, their security, not their security, their rescue system with their lifeboats was completely ridiculous. They planned on saving half the people if something like this went wrong. How can you do that? That would be I'm sure they wouldn't all be alive today, but I would say probably at most a half of them would still be alive of the 1,500. So that's almost 750 people that could have been alive and well today that could be telling this story. And there's I don't know how many there are alive that are still directly involved with the Titanic, but only 300 survived, and it was a long time ago, obviously, so I'm assuming there's only a very, 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 very select few today. But there just could have been so many people, other people, that could have shared this story, and we could have gotten a wider spectrum on it. I mean, it's just kind of saddening because there's so many things today that happened, like the sinking of the Deepwater Horizon oil rig or the Exxon Valdez. That was actually before my time, but obviously I've looked it up and I understand what it is. But there's so many things that I feel could be learned from the Titanic. Even though it was over 100 years ago, I feel like we're making the same sort of mistakes. Because, for example, let's just compare it to the Deepwater Horizon. The Deepwater Horizon happened, the tragedy of it happened because people wanted to seal it faster because it was at the end of its life. They wanted to seal it, be done with it, and move on with a new oil rig to put there. And because of their hastiness, the thing exploded and sank into the water and created a huge mess for the entire population of the United States, especially the Gulf of Mexico, and destroyed their tourist economy. And all of that could have been prevented if everybody would have just taken their time and they just would have thought about things and thought, what happens if something goes wrong, and planned about it. But people are just so hell-bent on just their money. That's all they care about. And I believe that is a serious problem with today's society. I really think that we need to be less greedy because we're not learning from our mistakes. I mean, sure, we have learned from some of them, but the Titanic is the prime example for me that pops into my head. We were hasty, and the thing sank. 1,500 people died because somebody wanted to go faster and get to their destination an extra day. The captain didn't want to do that, but he was basically forced to because all of the pressure of the rich people on the boat. So it's like where do you draw the line? Like he knew that he probably couldn't do that in the middle of an iceberg, basically field. He knew that he couldn't speed up to a speed that no other boat had gone before and live to tell the tale in that kind of a big, gigantic boat. And on top of that, they ignored warning signals from other boats about icebergs, which is crazy. So why can't we as a people, not just Americans, like everybody, there's been things all over the world that have happened that are ridiculous like this. So why can't we as a people just slow ourselves down enough to where we don't make those kind of mistakes and get people killed over needless greed? It's what it is to me. I'm only 17, but that's what it is to me, is just greed. I mean, yeah, BP lost a ton of money, but I don't know if they even were a net loss that year. They still probably made tons of money. And that's kind of ridiculous to me. I think something more like they should be punished for that kind of thing. And that's basically all I'm trying to say, is that people need to be more patient and be more conscious about people's lives. Just don't throw them around like they're nothing. But anyway, guys, sorry about this solemn commentary. That's all I got. I hope you enjoy it, take it to heart, whatever. But anyway, see you guys later.